Millions of children are orphans because of AIDS, and one of them, now 19 years old, Kevin Sumba, is visiting Australia for the 4th International AIDS Conference. You may have read his story in a book called Kevin's Questions. I spoke to the author of that book last year about his extraordinary meeting with Kevin, then 10 years old, an AIDS orphan living alone in an African slum. Kevin's now an advocate for AIDS education, and he'll tell his story when he visits Australian schools. Kevin will be joined by Australian Alicia Ross, the founder of YEAH, that's Y-E-A-H, Youth Empowerment Against HIV/AIDS. Both are with me now. Welcome to Life Matters. You hope to use the book Kevin's Questions, and Kevin himself, of course, to spread the message about AIDS.
I think it is an incredibly powerful educational tool, and we need to be promoting these sorts of resources into Australian classrooms to give them a connection to what's happening around the world.
Kevin's an AIDS orphan, and you've lost close family members to AIDS.
I think stories are a great way for anyone to connect to any issue. And so as an educator, I can stand up there and talk to them about the facts of HIV, and I can talk to them about what's happening in the world. But to be able to stand up there and tell them a story about losing my mum, and, they relate and they say, oh, you seem like a pretty normal person, so this happens to everyday people, and it gives people that connection.
How have young people reacted to that?
What I see is a frustration from a lot of young Australians so you're telling me that there is this huge global problem, and you're telling me that it is even an issue here in my own country, and very close to home also what's happening in the Asia sort of Pacific area as well, and no one's been talking to me about this until now. There's that sort of sense of why.
Well, let's meet Kevin properly now. Kevin, welcome to Life Matters again.
Thank you.
You've travelled a long way to get here, and a long way personally. What do you tell school children?
In my school? Actually, we never talked much about AIDS in our school. Yeah.
So who do you talk to about AIDS?
Okay, there's a guy in Kisumu. He was called Joseph. And when I met Miles, he's the one who was sent to me. So we used to discuss about AIDS, and a neighbor of mine called Albert. Actually, he used to warn me against AIDS, that you should be careful. Yeah.
Right. Miles Roston's the filmmaker who wrote the book Kevin's Questions.
Yeah.
Tell me how you lived when you were a child after you lost your parents too.
Actually, when I lost my father, that was back in 95, I was about 5 years old, and life was normal to me because I had my mom. Yeah, and my mom used to roast peanuts, and life was just normal to me. But when I lost my mom in 2000, so that's when I found myself alone. Yeah, and I just took on the business because I had no one to support me, so I just took on the business. And there's a friend of my mom whom I used to take the peanuts to. I roast them, then I take to her, and she sells them while I am in school. Yeah.
So you were 10 years old.
Yeah.
How long did you stay at school? How old were you when you left, I mean?
When I left school, I was about 15 years. Yeah.
But you were determined to stay there as long as you could.
Yeah. Actually, that's when my mom died, I was determined to go on with my studies. Actually, and it was really difficult, and I had to, at times, there were few problems, so I had to sneak in school and have my studies going on.
You mentioned that earlier there was a reluctance to talk about AIDS.
Yep.
What's the situation now?
If I could see the situation, it hasn't changed that much because most people are still reluctant to talk about AIDS. And you find that when someone is HIV positive, he still hides it. He can't just come in the open and say that I'm HIV positive.
Even other children can't say that to each other?
They can't.
Do you know how many of the children at your school were also managing without parents?
Sure, actually in my class we had quite a number. And yeah, they were managing without parents. Actually, I had a friend of mine. Yep.